warm-up, which is just a series of movements that we're going to go through to get our bodies warmed up before we do our stretching and get into our circuit. So our first movement in our dynamic warm-up today is going to be butt kickers. You don't need much space to do this, and you can kind of use what you have available to you. So in butt kickers, we're going to literally kick our butt, all right? When we do this, we're going to be going in a running motion, and I want you to pump your arms. Make sure you're pumping them forward and backwards. And our goal, really, we have a little bit of space, is to do this not for distance. So it's not a race, trying to get from one place to the other quicker than someone else or yourself. But it's really about getting as many of those butt kicks in as we can. And if you have very little space, and I mean very little space, you can literally do this movement in place. So I'm going to show you too now how we're going to move forward and backwards in this movement. Okay, so now our next movement is going to be high knees, which is really similar to butt kicks. Just moving in a forward range of motion, pumping those arms. Remember, this is a dynamic warm-up, and it's called that because we want to be dynamic. We want to get those knees up as high as we can in this movement. And again, if you have very little space, you really don't need to move at all. You can just do this in place, okay? So if you're moving forward and backwards, again, it's not about traveling for a distance. It's about getting as many high knees in as you can between here and there. And in my space here, I'm going to do 4 laps. Okay, so you can follow along. The next movement we're going to do is high skips, and this is also a movement which you can do in place. When you do this movement, we're going to think about traveling vertically, not horizontally. So reaching for the sky in my skip, and we're going to go opposite arm, opposite leg. Okay, so it does take a little bit of coordination. In place, it looks like this, and moving forward looks like this. Follow along. Okay, so our next movement is going to be backwards run. Now, if you're only doing this in a very small space, you can literally just move backwards in the small space that you're in. But you're not going to get as much of a benefit from this because what I really want to see in the backwards run is you pushing off of your toes and propelling yourself backwards, pumping those arms again in a dynamic movement. So if you have a little bit more space, let's see what this looks like, and you can follow along with me. I'm going to go back and forth 4 times again. Make sure you look where you're going. You don't want to end up tripping over your carpet, your kid. Really pressing off of those toes. All right, for our next warm-up movement, we're going to start warming up our hamstrings and our upper body as well. So these are called inchworms, and you don't need a lot of space to do them. So I'll show you first how you can do them in a very small space. I'm going to start from standing, reach my hands forward into forward fold. I'm going to walk myself out into a plank. So nice stack, shoulders over, elbows over wrists, and my bum is not bobbing or sagging. So from this position, I can just walk my hands right back to my starting position. That's how you do the inchworm in place. So you would just continue to go forward and back. Now, if I have a little bit more space, I can go forward with my inchworm, and I'll show you what that looks like, and then I'll add one other little dimension. So we're going to do the first lap in the regular inchworm, and in the second lap, I'm going to throw in a push-up to make it a little bit harder. So here it goes. Follow along. Walking with feet to hands if I have the space. Hands to plank. Feet to hands. Keeping that belly button tucked in. Coming back. Finding that nice strong plank. Head in line with my spine. Forward fold. Plank. Inchworm down like a pro. I'm going to throw in a push-up to make it a little bit harder. So the push-up's going to happen when I get to plank. I want to make sure that I'm stacked, shoulders over elbows over wrist, head in line with my spine. And when I do my push-up, my elbows are going to stay close to my body, not flying out. I want to work my pecs in this, not my shoulders, so I'm not piped, and my elbows are close to my body. Here it goes. So for one last variation on inchworm, maybe you're ready for something a little bit harder than just a straight up inchworm, but you're not quite ready to do a full push-up with good form, which is what I always require of you, is excellent form. So we can modify this by doing our inchworm, and then when we get into our stack, we're going to drop our knees right to the floor, just from where we are, to do a modified push-up. I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm going to be sideways, because I think it'll be a little bit easier. So this is an option for doing your inchworms instead of doing the full push-up. So you're going to start from standing forward fold, walk the hands out to plank. Here's my strong plank position. I literally just bend the knees. Everything's great. Push up, back to my plank, then walk the hands and the feet. And so next we're going to work back on our legs now, and for our warm-up we're going to do a walking lunge with a side bend. It's going to open up that side body, start getting every part of our body warmed up. So if you're doing this in very little space, again, really simply, and also so you can see my form in the lunge. So I don't need to move. I'm going to lunge. Both knees are bent, head and chest is up, hands overhead, side bend. Come back to center. Okay, now I'm going to lunge. Again, both knees are bent, head and chest up, side bend. Back to my starting position. Now, if you're doing this at home and you have the space to walk forward and back, please follow along. Doesn't matter which leg you start on. We're going to do both in a walking lunge fashion. Everything is the same as the side view. You're going to have head and chest up. Arms are going to remain overhead during the whole movement, and I'm going to lunge. Head and chest up, side bend, touch, side bend, touch. So if you want to advance this walking lunge warm up a little bit, we're going to step through instead of touching in the middle. essentially everything's going to be the same, except I'm going to step through my walking lunge the whole way. It'll be a little bit more fluid, a little faster. Looks like this. Arms up, lunge, side bend, step through. So this next dynamic warm-up move is side shuffle. It's a really simple move. You can do it with little to no space. And this move is for the lower body and no crossing over. It's not a race. We want to make sure that we are moving quickly and getting our heart rate up, but we want to make sure that we're executing the move well. So in side shuffle, if I'm going to demo it in a very small space, I'm going to get as low as I can, head and chest up. And I'm going to be shuffling side to side. So if you have very little space, that's exactly what it's going to look like for you. Now, if you have a little bit more space, we can do it forward and back. So I'm going to use this space right here. Follow along, head and chest up, nice and low. Here we go. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. So our next move is grapevine, and this is a really dynamic movement to warm up the middle of our body. So the twist is very important in grapevine. So in slow motion, from the front, so you can see what the footwork looks like first, you're going to cross over behind, and then you're going to come across. Cross over behind, come across in front. So this one gets a little tricky if you have a small amount of space. You need a little bit more space to do this. So again, in slow motion, behind and front, behind and front, behind and front, twisting, twisting, twisting. Okay, once you've mastered the slow motion version, we can try to make it a little bit faster. So if you have less space, experiment with what you can do in your space. Be careful not to slap your hands or legs or anything on anything. Done that before. And for those of you who have a little bit more space, follow along with me. So here we go. Twisting, twisting. Our next move is going to be wind outs, and this is really easy to do in little to no space. This actually is a warm up for balance. So we're going to start in just a standing position. Doesn't matter which leg you start on. We're going to raise up the front knee, open, return to center. On the other side, open, return to center. So I can do that just in my space right here, or I can do that walking forward. So essentially I'm going to take a step. The stepping leg becomes my base. Bring this leg up, open. This leg now steps forward, up, open. Down, a toe tap is completely acceptable. So what I'm talking about is something like this. Toe tap, step forward. Toe tap, step forward. That's okay. Keep going. And there you can see another spot where I might throw in a toe tap if I need a little extra balance help. If not, go for it with the full balance. This next one is knee hugs, and this one is also a balance warm-up. So I'm going to show you in place. So I'm just going to bring my knee up, hug it up to my chest, or return back to center. Knee up, hug it up to my chest, or squeeze it, return back to center. So I can toe tap anytime I need that rather than fall over. And I can do this walking. So walking forward and back, it looks like this. Then I'm going to step with my hugged knee. Squeeze it in. Step. Tap if you need it. No tap if you need it. Last warm up is a sprint build up. So again, if you don't have the space to do this in your house, no big deal. You can run in place. If you have even a little bit of space, I encourage you to try this. So typically, we're going to start with a 50% sprint. So we're going to do that right now. Then I'm going to build that up to a 75% sprint. I'm going to do that now. Give yourself a little bit of rest, and then we're going to work ourselves up to 100% sprint to finish. Here we go. Even if you have a little bit of space, you can do it.